Now, Bruce, take me in with a different setting now. We're looking at the corner tank, which is a pie-shaped tank. I had one of those hexagonal tanks, and it popped a leak in the middle of the night and emptied itself on our floor.
Boy.
And luckily, we saved all the plants and the fish, believe it or not.
Really?
We luckily had a insert into a barrel that we used in the summer.
Okay.
And my wife thought to grab that barrel, bring it in here, put water in it, and rescue the fish as the tank was draining at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
So this is the replacement, and I'm very pleased with that particular shape and what you can do with it.
Yeah,
Never had something like that.
It's interesting. It's definitely different.
So talk to me about where you are today in the hobby. You still have tanks, obviously.
Yeah, I still have tanks. And when I tell people, I have 4 tanks, and the sizes are 10, 29, 38, and 55 gallon. And when I tell people I have the tanks, they say, oh, isn't that a lot of work? Well, it does require maintenance. You have to do certain things, changing water and changing filters and that sort of thing. But I always tell people, it's not work if you enjoy doing it.
Right. So what kind of fish do you have today?
Well, I keep mostly peaceful varieties that will get along well with each other. Very similar to what you have here, although I have very few live bearers. There is one live bearer that I do have. It's called Endler's, and I think it has become extinct in its native habitat.
The form of a guppy, isn't it? Endler guppies is the way I've always heard of it, is it
they
or not?
refer to it as a guppy, but I think it's just really a live bearer.
Yeah, okay.
But it's psychedelic. The
Yeah,
males are.
yeah.
I mean, they have various colors throughout the body, and no two are quite alike. They're very attractive, but also very small. I think the maximum size is only about 1.5 inches.
I've seen them in the stores, believe it or not. I've never had them
Well,
myself. Ray had them.
when
for a
you
while.
visit my place, you'll
Yeah,
see them.
I will.
Yeah.
What other fish do you have? You have Discus, did you say?
Yeah, I have 2 Discus. I had bought 4 originally, and they're very attractive. They're when I decided, I was going to keep a few tanks after I left the business, I decided, they're considered the elite of the freshwater fish because they're so attractive, and their colors vary a lot too.
Yeah.
Depending on their mood, how they're getting along with each other. The 2 that I have, the one is quite a bit bigger than the other one and does bully it. They're both females, I know that because they both laid eggs at different times. And obviously the eggs were not fertilized. And so eventually they fungus and, they get over it. They haven't laid any eggs now for, probably almost a year.
Huh. Well, as I said, next time I come up to Metuchen, we're going to visit yours, and I'll bring the camera with me there so we can have our visitors come see what you got.
Sure.
And secondly, Bruce suggested that we take a ride, as Ray and I used to do our fishing trips. Well, Bruce and I are going to do a fishing trip up to Clifton and see this
Absolutely fish.
Absolutely fish. And you had a Discus place, right? That you said you could make an appointment.
Discus Madness, which they have a wide variety of colorful, different kinds of discus. It's a fabulous place, but to the point they don't want people just wandering in to their
So you actually have to make an appointment.
You have to actually make an appointment. And I'd like to take you there at that time too.
Hey, it'd be worth the trip.
I think you'd really enjoy it. They do have some other fish that are compatible with the discus that you can keep with them. A couple of different varieties of killifish, and some catfish, silver hatchets I remember they have, all compatible with the discus fish. And so it's and they have angelfish too.
So, looking back now, how many years have you been in the hobby?
Oh God.
When did you get your first fish?
Since I was, as I say, my father's friend who gave me the guppies in the tank, I think I was probably only about 8 years old at the time.
So you've been in the hobby over 70 years,
Yeah.
7 decades. Isn't that amazing?
And I did an awful lot of reading about it initially, and I wanted to breed them, which I did. I was doing that in my parents' basement. Fortunately, he had oil heat down there, and it stayed at a pretty constant temperature, around 75 degrees. because the heating plant downstairs, the oil burner that he had, just heated the whole basement. That worked out quite well for me. I didn't have to have separate heaters for each one of the tanks.
Neat.
And that was very good.
Neat. And so, what do you see difference in today's generations and the tropical fish hobby?
Well, obviously the technology has improved considerably. It's easier to keep a lot of the fish.
You said you're into more plants nowadays.
Yeah, plants have really taken over for me. I really enjoy having a well-planted tank, which you have two examples right here that are better examples than what I could show you at my house. And there's only the one place that I know of called aquaticplants.com, and one of the things they advertise in their layout that they have in the internet says, we are one of the few places that grow the plants aquatically instead of hydrophonically. I don't know if you know what the difference with that is. But hydrophonically, they're grown out of water, and then when you try to introduce them back into water, it's a hardship for them. And most times they just don't make it. They don't make the adjustment.
Huh.
But they actually grow, the majority of their plants submerged in water, as they should be.
We've been fortunate. We've got a couple, not chain, but large fish stores within half-hour driving distance.
Okay.
And some of them have a better collection of plants at different times than others.
Right.
And so just like when Ray and I would go off on our fishing trips, we would discover opportunities, right?
Sure.
Good price, a good sale,
That's
a good
right.
plant, and the Madagascar lace plant I mentioned before, the Tropiquarium down in Ocean, New Jersey,
Right.
which has since gone out of business. In fact, shortly after Ray's death, we heard that they were closing up, and it was like it went out the same time he went out, if you will.
I knew that fellow.
Good guy.
He worked for TFH Hobbyist with Axelrod for a period of time.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
So
I forget his name offhand now. But I had seen
was
him
it
over
Gary?
the years. Yeah, Gary, that's right.
Yeah.
And the last time I was in to see his shop, I was kind of disappointed because I could see things were really going downhill.
Yeah. He I think he submitted to the internet. He tried to compete with the internet.
Okay.
And but you could find things down there. We'd take a ride down there. Now when I say take a ride, 45 minutes to get to Ray's house, and then another half hour Ray driving down to Ocean.
Okay.
And we go in there and come out with nothing in our hands.
Yeah.
You know, but hey, it was a trip. We'd stop and have lunch at Joe's Crab Shop, which has since closed up. Now, once we just stopped going there, they went out of business. And we stopped at the little shops, like the shop you would have had originally.
Yeah.
And we always liked those small shops because there was always opportunities there to.
Oh yeah. A lot of places will specialize in things that nobody else is interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see, the types of fish that some owners
Yeah.
take an interest in and will keep them in their place where you don't see them anywhere else.
I can still remember down in this one little shop, they had a big tank, one of these 100-gallon tanks, just filled with fish, cichlids mainly. And they had a sale on their Australian rainbows.
Okay.
I never really had rainbow fish, but for $1 a piece, I was going to buy them.
Sure.
Because I never saw them that price.
Sure.
And I said, could I have 6 of them? She said, sure. I didn't know how she was going to catch 6 fish out of the hundreds in there. But I swear, she put the net in the water, and one of those rainbows would go into the net, and she'd put it in the container. She did that with 6 fish. No other fish went into that net. She picked up 6 fish like it was nothing, and it was almost like calling to the fish.
Yeah.
But those are always the stories we love to share in those shops.
Yeah.
We had stories with your shop.
Apparently she was very skilled.
A fish whisperer.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Bruce, I can't tell you enough. What other kind of memories do you have of your business?
even before I got into the business, as a kid, I'd say to my mother, me and 3 of my buddies are going to the local ponds. I need waders. And we would go and we would catch turtles and release them. I remember it was always exciting in the springtime when the baby turtles would
Oh,
hatch
yeah.
out.
Yeah.
You know, they were so colorful. The Eastern painted.
Yep.
You know, the carapace underneath was a bright orange.
Yep. Bright orange and red.
I mean, we could catch in one day maybe 25 of them, and then we just release them again afterwards.
Yeah.
And we catch snakes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there was anything poisonous we were dealing with. Mostly water snakes.
Yeah.
And garter snakes.
Well, the biggest memory I have of Brothers Pond, which is what we call that pond, that the Brothers of Sacred Heart had a piece of property went back into the woods, and they had a basin back there. That was our pond. That's where we spent our summers.
Okay.
And one particular summer there, I can remember looking out into this pond, and there was a shadow in the water. We couldn't understand what that shadow was. And it was a big shadow. We finally realized it was a school of baby catfish.
Oh.
I mean, tens of thousands of
I
them.
can remember seeing those on the shore in the ponds.
Oh God, it was awesome. And of course, we caught some, brought them home, probably sold you some.
Probably. Sure. Sure. Yeah. Well, there was a housing development in town called 20th Century Homes when I delivered newspapers as a kid. And before it went up, there were two large-sized ponds out that way. One was called Spear Pond, which was on Spear Avenue, and I forget what the other one was called. The other one was about twice the size, and us kids used to go there and catch all kinds of creatures. And when 20th Century Farms went up, 20th Century Homes, I should say, they emptied the smaller pond out, and they put a house right on top of where the pond was. And, you know, if that had happened, even 20 years later, probably it would have been illegal to do so.
Mm-hmm.
The pond would have had to stay.
Yeah.
And then they drained the other pond that was behind it, and neither one of them exists today. And it's the type of thing that kids just can't appreciate anymore. I remember we had one open field that I could walk through any time on Grove Avenue and scare up about 3 or 4 pheasants.
Not anymore.
And Grove Avenue at the time was a dirt road. It was, the railroad ran through that area. They finally put a bridge up, but prior to that it was just dead-ended.
One last memory. You were talking before about the window display you had in the pet shop.
Oh yeah.
What did you have in the window display?
We had a
and what
window
did you do
display with Siamese cats. And our window lights were on timers. They would be on till like 10 o'clock at night. And I'd sometimes drive by after the shop was closed up at 6. And there would be a crowd gathered out in front of the window just watching these cats go crazy with each other, attacking one another and just having a ball.
And the fixtures you had in the window for the cats to either sleep in or to climb on were?
Yeah, there was cat furniture, and I think we were one of the original starters of cat-type furniture. And the cats had a ball.
And you made it yourself?
Yeah, we made it ourselves.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, that was a great time to grow up. As you can see,
Certainly was.
somebody like yourself, 15 years old, starting a business.
That's right.
And, today you probably wouldn't pass all the legal documents and insurance and God only knows else we need.
That's true.
And we risk being abducted on our paper routes and going house to house and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We learned the functions of business at that level.
Sure.
And then it became a lifetime career, and now here we are, retired, enjoying a hobby where we can actually afford to buy 10 fish at a time.
Yeah, that's right. and just have a good time with it.
Yeah.
And but some of the things that have gone by the way, I'm disappointed in. There was a company called the Supreme Company, developed by a Mr. Danner. They were the best heaters, I think, on the market. They had components inside that plugged in, and you could take the inside guts of the heater out. You could clean off the contact points with a little emery cloth, put them back in there, and they would work just like new again. And I mean, occasionally the contact points would stick together, and it might overheat your tank and kill the fish. That was possible, but It's old technology, but it's technology that worked very well. They were, I mean, I had some of those heaters in my tank from when we first opened in 1960 for the place on Main Street, and they were still functioning heaters. And, you know, it's gone by the way, and all these submergible heaters have taken over, and I don't understand really why.
Now you moved from the Gateway Shopping Center into town around 1960.
That's right.
And you had that shop until when? 97?
Until 97, that's right.
So, what's that, 37 years?
That's right.
Plus 3 or 4 years at the other place?
Yeah.
So,
And in between, you know, we had to wait for them to completely rebuild the inside of the store before they rented it. And during that time, I went to work for my father as an electrician's helper for about 6 months. And it was good money, much better than I had made, obviously, at Gateway. I think I was earning, I don't know, $3.39 an hour or something to that effect, which doesn't sound like much today. Yeah. But in those times, it was a lot of money. And I thought about going into the electrical trade, but my experience with the paper route turned me off on that because I learned at that time I did not want to be working outdoors in the wintertime. I used to see my father come home sometimes so chilled, he would fill the tub with hot water. He would sit in it for 30 or 40 minutes just to warm up from being out in the cold all that time.
I think another advantage for youth working in part-time jobs was to learn what they didn't want to do for the rest of their lives.
That's right. I think you're absolutely right.
It was quite an education.
And you get experience, and you find out, you know, what you like, what you don't like. I used to hire a lot of high school youngsters when I had my business, and some very positive relationships developed out of that. One of the fellows that I had working for me, he worked for me when he was in high school. The whole time he went through college, he went to Fairleigh Dickinson. Phil Cherlinsky was his name, and he became a policeman in town for about 5 years, and then he moved on to the FBI.
Wow.
So, you know, I've had some astute people who work for me over the years, let's put it that way.
And you could establish some foundations. I'll close with one of my own stories, which does involve your shop, by the way.
All right.
And that was, as kids, we could get as many part-time jobs as you wanted to work, which was kind of cool. Because if you needed something, how much did you want? Okay, just go work on all these different jobs until you had that much money. You learned what work meant in terms of pay, which meant you could buy things, okay?
Sure.
And this one particular day, I was working in the corner delicatessen, wrapping up the papers that go back, a Saturday morning.
Okay.
And as I came out to the front register to get more papers, my next door neighbor, Mr. Geiger, who had a fish tank and used to frequent your shop, came in. And I said, "Oh, hi, Mr. Geiger." And he bought his cigarettes and his paper, and we said hi. And he went on. At 9 o'clock, I was finished there. And at 9 o'clock, I went and worked in your shop for a while. And he came in there to buy fish food. And so I waited on 2 different places. And by noontime, I ended up going to my grandfather's lumber yard down in Ford's, which is the next town down.
Okay.
And I was in back where you have come get wood cut up to fit.
Sure.
And he came in to get something, and he was sent out back to get his wood cut, and there I was. I waited on 3 times. Now at 3 o'clock they closed the lumber yard. At that point I went over to the Menlo Park Shopping Center, and I worked in the Mary Jane shoe store. Okay. He came in with his 2 daughters to get them their Easter shoes, and I waited on them. And so at 6 o'clock the shopping center closed in those days, and I went down to the Stewart's Root Beer stand in Ford's, New Jersey, where I worked behind the counter. Right. And after he got through shopping at the shopping center, he brought his family down for dinner to the root beer stand. Right. And I was behind the counter and waved to him. And the net result was, he said, "I've got to have that kid working for me." And the following year I worked at the Raritan Arsenal for the government, filing index cards of parts for the mechanics of whatever. And so
if I remember the story correctly,
5 times in one place.
Yeah, if I remember the story correctly, didn't he say, "You're a go-getter, I want you to work for me"?
That's exactly what he did.
Yeah,
something like that I need working for me.
Yeah.
Bruce, I got to tell you, this has been a real pleasure, and I look forward to continuing this.
Yeah.
And we come up to your house, and we'll capture those tanks, and maybe I'll remember another story or two by then.
Okay.
And then we'll take a quick trip up to Clifton and to Discus,
Sure.
whatever it was,
Yeah.
and look forward to it. So thank you for sharing, and I hope our listeners, this is two people who have been in the fish trade now for 7 or 8 decades of all things.
Just sharing
stories.
That's right.
And Bruce, it's been over 60 years since I saw you last,
Yeah.
and we had these type of encounters back in those
Yeah.
days. So
You know, it's a funny thing. When I was going out of business in Metuchen, I remember Ray coming in and buying a few things and saying to me, what are we going to do? How are we going to see one another again? I said, I think we'll work it out. Well, we never did.
yeah.
Never happened.
He and I talk once in a while about, wouldn't it be neat to own a fish store together?
Yeah.
That's all we ever did. You did it.
Yeah.
We dreamed it.
Yeah.
Bruce, thank you again very much. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you for coming all the way down here.
Yeah.
And hey, listeners, stay tuned. We'll do that other trip sometime soon.
Yeah, there you go.